It's 9 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everybody. And Irene, if you would please lead us in the invocation.
Yes, sir. Okay. Dear God, I pray for us all to be calm and open-minded about the process and about the budget itself. It's clear we have to make some cuts, but I pray we can do so in a spirit of fairness to all who will be affected. O Lord, in your name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Join us in the Texas Pledge, please.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
You know, Mr. Garcia, for them to put the word budget in the prayer, we got some interesting stuff coming up.
That's very
You know, when Irene puts budget in the prayer, it's not good.
It's very important.
Could you do the roll call, please, Irene?
Yes, sir. Jerry Garcia, Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Luis Elizondo, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Leo Gonzalez, Secretary.
Here.
Devin Bakta. Armando Chapa.
Here.
Caitlin Chu.
Here.
Gabriela Hilpo. Butch Poole.
Here.
Kevin Kishnick. Ramiro Canales, Chief Appraiser.
Here.
Leticia Roberts, Assistant Chief.
Here.
Melissa Villa, Attorney.
Here.
Terry Nowak, TLO. We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you so very much, Irene. And do we have anyone signed in for public comment, Irene?
No, sir.
They're showing no one signed in. I'll accept unless you want to set aside one of the consent agenda items and approval to approve all, but rather motion to approve all these agenda items under number 6 as written.
So moved. Second.
LA's moves to have them approved, and Mr. Chapa seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Since Terry's not here this morning, what are we going to do about the TLO officers? It's in your packet. Oh, it's in your packet, okay. So the one that you've already read, hopefully, when Irene sent the minutes out, is Terry's report. Now we go on to Elias and item number 8, discussion or action of the 2024 budget. Elias?
Okay, so it's on, in your board packet, it's item, tab number 8. And you should also have separately in front of you the budget as it stands right now, the one that went out to the entities. But I want to focus, this was given last month also, and some of them were still here, so we just put them all back out again. So I'm going to focus on the page to keep it concise, because when you talk about this many numbers, we can get all over the place. So to keep it concise, I want to focus on the sheet that's in page 8, tab 8. Okay. So where we left off last time was there were some concerns, well, the comment made at the budget public hearing requesting the board do a flat budget equal to the 2023 budget. This is the 2024 budget, to make them equal. There was also some other discussion in the main board meeting about concerns about how certain protested values in the appraisal roll. So all of that kind of got deliberated, and the staff were directed to come back with scenarios basically saying flat budget. But I still have a chief that wants you to consider the original budget. He feels that he's done everything he can within reason to address the concerns that came up in the last meeting. And so when I get something like that, because I report to him, but then we're doing this for you, I'm bringing you scenarios. So here's what we've got. On the sheet on page, tab 8, page 11, there's the current budget. It's got a little bit of history on it. The original budget was $10,000,009. And we gave you a budget with everything completely in it, including the special initiatives. Everything was in there, even though we weren't going to ask the entities for new money for those things, just to disclose them to you. So it was $10,000,009. We took out the additional litigation fund, $500,000, to be taken from the fund balance. That's money that we came into the year with. So we doubled it in that budget. We, instead of asking for the traditional 500,000, we put in $1 million, but then we said we're going to take 500,000 out of our money and then ask them for the usual allotment next year. So that came out. The third floor remodeling, put it in the original budget, but then we pulled it back out to be taken from the fund balance so that the entities aren't asked for new money for that. So that's about $1.1 million worth of stuff that came out of the original budget. That budget that went out to the entities stands and still stands today at $9,860,917. That's under the current column. What the board directed staff to come back with is in the far right column. It's labeled 2% COLA. That's a cost of living adjustment for the staff, because even under a flat scenario, the chief would still like to give out cost of living increase because we have labor shortages right now. We have high inflation that's been going on for a while. So the starting point is the 9.8 million that the entities saw, and then you're going to see these things before we formally incorporate them. We want to take out, or we propose removing from there, an allotment of 100,000 for dealing with the findings of the property value study. We would need a consultant attorney, I think, for that. We checked with the ISDs. 2 of them are going to not protest it, and 2 are going to do it on their own. So we feel that the probability is safe that we won't be needed for that. So we're taking that 100,000 out. Removing the cost of living increase of 230,740, that includes the increases to the staff and any other expenses that go up as a result, like Social Security, Medicare, and the pension contribution. So 230,000 comes out of that number. However, we're proposing to put back in then a 2% cost of living, so half is going to go back in. And we can achieve the same budget as 2023. The middle scenario is just there if you want to consider it. It's something in between. But we still would like for you to consider the current budget as it stands now, which is the very first leftmost column. And then the one in between is everything's the same, except it's a 3% cost of living increase. But that results in a budget that grew by, I want to say about 60,000, and it's a 0.61% increase. So less than 1% increase over the 2023 budget. That's what we're putting before you to comply with what you gave us to do last time. But we still want you to consider the budget as it is now, which is that first column. Or if you want us to do something else, we can do that too.
Does anyone have any questions right now for Elias?
Well, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Other entities like the school district, the county, or Del Mar, did they do any cost of living raises to their staff or to their people that you know of?
I don't know of that firsthand, but I've heard.
The school district is giving raises to its staff. The city is giving several raises to its staff. Del Mar, I don't think they are. See, what else is left? The county.
The county isn't.
The county is kind of also standing still on that for right now.
So the answer to your question would be,
Yes and no.
yeah.
Some have, yeah.
Some have and some haven't. I knew that the county hadn't given any cost of living increases, and I believe Del Mar has not either.
I think most school districts have given some type of a raise to their teachers.
Well, if I may interrupt, let's also talk about a second item that has to go into the budget, because it's all kind of the kit and caboodle.
Go ahead, Elias.
It's at the bottom of that page. This is brand new to us, and it's so fresh that we don't know what's going on. We're not prepared to really give you full-blown explanation, but we know the what, not the how, or how it's going to play out. The Texas legislature is going to put on the ballot in November that appraisal districts have to now elect from the public 3 board members. And the language as it's written now, it's 5 members all voted on by the same entities among themselves, so all the entities combined that are allowed to vote, 3 additional ones voted from the public, and then, of course, the tax assessor collector. That's all we know at this point. You know, we don't know specifics, or if we have options, we don't know yet. But we do know that it's very likely to be approved by the voters in November, because they tacked it on the ballot with some, what I call sexy things, that make it hard for a voter to turn it down. So it'll probably, in all likelihood, get approved, and then it'll apply to us. In order to have an election, we know already, and it's nowhere in the budget right now, we know already, or we've got an estimate from the election office of our share is $350,000 of the election costs. And then if there's a runoff, we're gonna need another $225,000 estimated, so that's a total of $575,000 that we definitely do need to enter into the budget. So that needs to be factored in whatever
When
scenario.
would that election be if it's passed?
Right now, it looks like May of 2024.
May.
And when
Wouldn't it-
when would we know that, confirm that they're having the election?
Well,
November,
well-
maybe?
Well, the thing is that it's on the amendments, it's S number 4, and it's tacked in with the homestead exemption, so that's why Elias is saying exactly what's gonna happen, is it'll pass, because people wanna make sure that their homestead exemption is increased from 40 to 100,000, but that's strictly for your school districts. So that's what they did. At the very end, nobody expected this to be, but that's what they've done. The election process, from other appraisal districts, we've been getting numbers as to what it would cost them individually to have those 3 people elected countywide. It varies from 350,000, 500,000 to 14 million. 14 million is out right now in Harris County. So what the metro appraisal districts, which we're considered one, are looking to see what the difference will be between the May election primary versus the general election, would be cheaper in that sense. But it's a mandate from the state. Our state legislatures have seen that it's the best thing for us to do, but then we turn around and we have to fund it, not the state. So it's going to increase the budget, aside from everything that we've done, by almost $575,000 if the election is held in May. And that's,
Do we know it's gonna be in May? It wouldn't be in November?
well, they're talking about doing in November. Now, there'll be a special session coming up again, and that's part of the discussions that they're having now, whether to decide to have it in May or in November, where it'll be more cost-effective for the individual appraisal districts to have it. Okay? And it also abides by the fact that the population number has to be 75,000 and above for us to have 3 elected county-wide board members. Okay?
Has there been that maybe I've been in the forest and haven't heard anything, but there have been a clamoring of people wanting to get on to the tax appraisal district?
No.
You know, the thing is that the state has gone out and made all kinds of exemptions, meaning school district exemptions for your homestead over 65. Your over 65 is going to go to 110,000 for over 65 and a disabled person. But it's strictly for the school districts. At one point, they were talking about that plus doing it across the board, but for right now, they've agreed just to do it for just the school districts where most of your tax bill is from the school districts. That's one way of trying to relieve the homeowner. The other issue that they're bringing up too is a cap on the property up to 5 million. I think it's 20%. They'd be capped up to 20%. Those are for the properties that are additional properties, not your homesteaded properties. That's what's going to take place for next year as well. At one point, they had thought about putting a cap on all other properties of 5%, but they chose to condense it down to, for a 3-year period, to see how that's going to work out. So anything up to 5 million will be discounted or capped at 20% of normal value, whether it's commercial, additional rental properties, or whatever you might want to call it. But that's in play. But what the state has done, like I said, and Elias brought it to your attention, we were not prepared for this, and neither were most of appraisal districts, is the additional cost to the budget of anywhere, like I said, between 350,000 to as much as 14 million. 14 million is going to be in Harris County. And then you've got other appraisal districts that are paying $1 million and above. I think Dallas is coming in at a little over $1 million for them to do what we're having to do now by the state.
Do we
Anything
know,
else?
are these going to be at-large positions?
Yes, it's
Okay,
going to be
so
it's going to be a
countywide?
countywide election.
Where'd you get those numbers? Those are outrageous.
Well, the numbers came from the Metro Appraisal Districts. We have a liaison chief appraiser that is pretty much working with legislatures to keep us updated on bills that are coming up. And what he was asking for is to talk to your election administrator, which in this case is Carol Sands, as to give an estimate as to what it would cost for the appraisal district to have participate in the election in May, the primaries. And that's the number that Carol Sands' staff gave us, $350,000. With a runoff, it's an additional 200 and plus thousand, so you're looking at, $500,000 right there.
There are no other countywide elections in May anymore, are there?
Yeah, the primary election in May.
Yeah, but
yes.
they're just the small school districts, and they're in different areas. It's not countywide.
No. Next year is presidential election year, 24.
I'm talking about May.
Yeah, that's your primary. That's where all of your people start to run, countywide.
Okay.
Your county judges, your district attorney, I'm not sure about, not county attorney, but district attorney is several district judges and county court of law judges, JPs, and I'm not sure about commissioner's court, whether 2 of those will be coming up for re-election as well. But that's the primary. That means that Democrat on one side, Republican on the other, and then whoever wins in the primary election faces off in November.
I thought that was in March.
Well, they're talking May.
Yeah. So, Elias, pardon me.
That's
If considering the scenario of, for round numbers, let's say $500,000 for the item number 2. And if we go under that scenario, then the budget with the 2% COLA would be $10 million, 10-1.
It'd be, with the 2% COLA, it'd
10-2.
be 10-2, close, and it would be an increase in the overall, from that scenario.
10%.
Yep. Let me show you something.
10.2 million.
So is this on the ballot for November?
Yes.
Yes.
So
So
if it
just as
passes in November.
Just as a point of clarification, because everything that's been reported is accurate, what's on the ballot for November is a constitutional amendment that would change the term of office for the appraisal district board members from 2 years to 4 years. But SB2, which is what y'all have been discussing, that would add the 3 elected officials, is not effective unless that constitutional amendment passes. But as has been reported, it's bootstrapped to the tax property decrease. So we anticipate it's going to pass.
Yeah, it'll pass.
And those elections will be next May, possibly?
So that the constitutional amendment election is going to be this November. And then the elected positions for the appraisal board would be in May of 2024, which is what the latest information we have, right?
So then that'll increase our board from what, 7 to 10? Or how many are board members?
We're 9 right now.
If SB2 becomes effective, it would be 9.
We are 9.
We are 9, so that's
I mean, Ronnie sits in your lap.
Yes, yes. I have to split time there. Now, the other thing too, that part of what Belinda's telling you too, is that the tax assessor collector won't be able to vote as well. I don't think it's just going to be the ex officio, or he probably won't be, but he'll still have voting powers, make motions, etc., just like a normal board of director. Is that correct?
I think there's a lot of questions as to how SB2 is going to be implemented, and I was even visiting with an attorney just this morning trying to understand how it's going to be implemented. There's a lot of different opinions going on right now. I know that the Texas Association of Appraisal Districts is reaching out to the Secretary of State, and they're even talking about maybe needing an Attorney General opinion to understand how we're going to implement this. So I think that's why we were saying there's still a lot to come.
So it's just an overview, Belinda, of what you've been saying is there's still nothing set. We really don't know anything yet. We don't even know if that's gonna happen.
Yeah, we can't really add it to the budget right now, because
Well,
you can anticipate it, but you can't add it because you
Yeah,
don't know if
that's
it's, you really don't have an assurance that it's gonna pass. You think it probably will.
well then,
And
what happens then is that
we'll
we'll
have,
have to come back and amend the budget
Yeah.
to accommodate that election.
Exactly.
Which means that you have to go to each entity within a time span to get that done. And most, well, appraisal districts today are doing what we're doing right now, having to pass it because it's going to pass. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
The only question that we have, and there's several of those, is how is that going to be implemented for those 3 elected officials?
But I would think that if this comes down as a state mandate, that you would have to amend your budget and then do special assessment pro rata on each taxing entity. I mean, to me, that'd be the only way you could really do it, because if it, for some reason, it doesn't pass or SB2 gets modified in some way, and we've collected 500,000.
What if we, because this Pandora's box that's open with unfunded mandates has just been a disaster.
Right.
But what if we take the opposite view, Butch, and we did incorporate it into the budget, and if it doesn't pass, then we eliminate that amount of money from the budget?
And then you give it back to the
Would it be any
entities?
special circumstance, Elias, that we would do that, or?
I can't think of why we would need to go back and have the entities approve that, but maybe we can go through it and then just readjust their quarterly payments.
Right.
So you would reduce their payments
Yes.
going forward.
As if the budget didn't have
Right.
those things in it in the
Right.
first place.
In other words, you kind of basically refunding the difference to them.
You just refunded it on a pro rata basis. But I think that'd probably be.
Well, it doesn't sound like a
the lesser
refund, it
of-
sounds like a discount. I mean,
Well, it'd be probably the lesser of two evils if we did that, and.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, legally, what's the easiest way, Melissa, or Linda, what do you think on the budget?
Probably pass it with the 500,000 and then do as Elias mentions, that we can just reduce and reimburse.
All right,
Okay, so
there it is.
we've done this before where we had to kind of do a live situation with y'all. So this is the spreadsheet that, an excerpt of that is in with yours. There's a lot of numbers and stuff. Ignore the highlighted things. That's just something we were looking at. But under the current scenario, if the budget had that 575 added into it, the budget would climb to 10.4. That's where we are right now, our budget. Under this scenario, it would climb to 10 million four, compared to the 23 budget, 9.6 million. It's a 791, well, almost $792,000 increase, shared pro rata among all entities. Okay? Under this scenario, with the 2% COLA, it would be a 634,000 or a 6.58% increase. The minimal impact scenario with that minimal COLA in it, that would be a $575,000 increase. So it'd be 5.96. This is what a working column that I would be working today with you on, depending on which scenario gets pulled over. So that's the 4th scenario, in case we have to do something different. So here's the 3 that you have. Now, another thing is, when we pass a budget with this in it, they have to be told, because they have to do their budgets. We get a lot of phone calls, what's the number, what's my number, what's my number? We're trying to coordinate, but the timing of things sucks, because we don't have levies to be able to do an accurate allocation. Those don't come until October. So you got a timing thing, and now we have this legislative thing that's going to be a problem, because the timing sucks on that too. All right, so these are the scenarios, and compared to the 23, and that's the growth in the red. You guys can probably see that a little bit better on your screens. This would be the most impacting, medium impacting, less impacting, unless you want to do something completely different.
So column D on there is the second column on the memo.
It's the memo, it's the middle one on your memo.
Okay.
Elias, could I see a column without any cost of living adjustment? Just what that would look like?
I was wondering. That's why, well, let me do it over once again, because he's looking good. We're going to focus on this fourth column with no cost of living increase. There's that scenario. This column right here is the live one we're working on. So if no cost of living was in there and nothing replaced or adjusted the cost of living, the budget would still rise to 10.3 with the election stuff in it.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Could you remove the cost of living so I can see the impact of that and just zero cost of living adjustment so that 13 would still be the negative 237.40?
Well, this one here, this column?
Itself?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see.
You took out the,
Yes, yes, that still needs to come out. Okay, there we go. There's the increase right here. 460,000 or 4.7%. That's cost of living removed, we still shave travel, and we add the elections.
column E is the 2% COLA.
Column E is the, yes, 2%.
Okay, thanks.
So it's gonna be between E and F.
Seems this one would be the least impacting with everything in it that we need. But we still have that thing with the labor.
So, under those scenarios, Elias, LA and I were discussing the
Pros and cons.
the total effect of no cost of living. If we go, we remove the consulting, reduce the travel, remove the COLA, then at that point, we're looking at 4.7.
Yeah.
And, yes, sir. And then if we keep the COLA at 2%, then we are looking at 5.9.
Yes.
Okay. So the effective difference would be 1.2, more or less, difference.
Oh,
Percent increase?
1.2%.
Yes. Mhm. So that really is the nucleus, I think. I believe where you were going with your question, Caitlin, was the effects of none versus two. So that really is the upshoot of this whole thing is, and as LA was telling me that some school districts did approve that, and some other districts did not approve any cost of living increases. So the conundrum to us is, what are we as the board of directors comfortable in doing, or not so much comfortable, but are forced to do? And that's a question that you all need to resolve in your mind, and let's move forward with this. We need to do something. And that budgeted in with that item number 2 is going to be a difficult tiger to swallow, but the reality of the situation is it is what it is. So, Butch, what do you think?
I like column E. I think that there should be some sort of COLA.
Column E?
E.
Okay. And Armando, what do you think?
It's tough. it's really tough. I know it's a hard time, and I know that the entities are having problems with it. I kind of agree with Butch. I'm torn between the two, quite frankly, right now. I'd like to hear everybody else's comments first.
All right. Leo, what do you think?
I think what we told the city last week is we're gonna keep a flat budget. If we can manage by shifting around some expenses within and keep flat and still manage a 2% cost of living, which Ronnie, feels important, then I think if we can kind of keep our word. The 575 is different, so I'm kind of same thing. If we can manage the column E, where it's just the change is the 575.
So you feel comfortable with column E? Or as comfortable as possible?
Right.
Can I argue back on E?
I'm sorry?
To my point on E, prior to this election issue, we were looking at a 0.6 increase is all. And to me, that was
Acceptable.
acceptable. I mean, I think we nailed it down as much as we could. I can't help it that the state comes in with these crazy
That
mandates.
has nothing to do with us.
I know. And so I think I would be able to go back and say, we looked at this, we came up after giving a 2% COLA, a 0.5% increase in a budget, 0.5%. I mean, that's very minimal. And then, by the way, the state threw this in, so we're looking at a 6% increase.
Right. We got hit at the last moment.
That's my argument for it.
With a $500,000 increase.
That may not
That may not happen.
happen.
Right. LA?
I don't know, I'm torn, because as much as I wanna do some type of an increase for the staff, I think unfortunately our bigger battle right now, our bigger focus has to be this litigation with the refineries, and I'm hopeful that we can get it resolved this year. I think things look promising that it will get done this year, but I may end up just being the bad guy and go with that.
So you want
No increase.
no increase, you want to go with
Yeah.
okay. Caitlin?
I'm in agreement with F. I think we're not a revenue generating entity. All of our revenue comes from the taxing entities, and if even a handful of them are considering not giving cost of living adjustments, I think the spirit of what we said the last meeting was to be sensitive to them, and that's the best way to show that we're doing that.
Okay. Mando?
1, 2. How about you, Jerry?
I don't get a vote.
Huh?
I don't get a vote.
He's a
You don't
tiebreaker.
get a vote.
I don't get a vote.
3, 4, 5.
It's 2 and 2. I'm the keeping tabs.
Now, if I have to, if it's a tie and I vote, then I would vote with LA and with Caitlin. I think the spirit is that we need to go ahead and go with F, and in spite of the things that we're facing. But that doesn't have any bearing on anything. It's what you want to do, Monday.
I know. I'm sensitive to the staff needs, but maybe this particular situation merits with us staying with Ed. I'm sensitive to the staff. I'm sensitive to what Mr. Canales is trying to get done. And I appreciate that. It's just that it's a very unique situation we're under, and something that we kind of committed to. I didn't think at that time that we should have committed that quickly, but we did. It seemed like we committed to it. As a board, last month or whatever it was, we committed to come back with a flat budget. So I guess I'm going to have to go with F.
All right. So Armando and LA and Caitlin are thinking F. Can I hear a motion from one of our members? Oh, go ahead, Ronnie.
You know, we had a very good budget of 2.25 to begin with, and staff has really worked real hard to get where we're at today. My intentions when I took over the appraisal district was to make sure that we did what was best for the appraisal district, and we had not swayed from that until now by
not giving any COLA or any kind of whatever to the appraisal district staff, we were inundated with a lot more work that we've ever had in the last few years. This handout that we passed to y'all, which is your protest right here, that tells you how the increases have been coming through the years. It also tells you what the staff and the entities, if you look at it, if you take time to look at it and you go towards the last 2-3 pages, that's going to break down what those numbers are for each district as far as values are concerned.
I understand, Ronnie.
And the thing too is that, we're understaffed. We've understaffed. We had not hired any new appraisers. We were waiting for certification to get this out of the way so we can start doing what we need to do. But we also need to make sure that we're able to recruit staff that is going to be proper for what we do here every day. So that's what I was saying, that I was hoping that we would do what is best for the appraisal district, pay attention to what each jurisdiction has to say, but at the end of the day, make up the opinion as to what is best to what we need to do. For us to do our work, we have to have proper tools to do what we do here, proper resources as well. And if we get cut on tools or resources, then of course, things are going to start changing on the downside, not on the upside. You already got 3 elected people coming in next year. That's never been done before. It's going to pass. They tied it in with the homestead exemption. So if you want your exemption, you're going to pass it. That means they're going to come in. What these people are going to run on, I have no idea. It's either going to lower your property value, get rid of the chief, because that's basically it. See? So, if we agree to give nothing to staff, so be it. But I just wanted to make sure that y'all understand that I'm really disappointed that we're not going to do what we have to do for our staff. But then again, I'm here at the whim of the board of directors to do what needs to get done. And staff will do what has to get done as well.
I hear you, okay, I hear you, okay. I hear you. I understand what Butch is saying also, that it's a very defendable position to take because of the modest increase. So I'm going to concur with I take the advice of our chief appraiser.
Okay.
I wasn't kicking him under the table, so.
I'm sorry?
Can I offer a thought to y'all? I've heard feedback from y'all. How about this to be revisited? We can revisit this. We'll go ahead and do this. Revisit this when we know more about this.
Revisit it to when?
Revisit it when we know more about this.
In September?
Whether it's even going to be needed.
You mean if that's a true
Revisit.
number?
I'm sorry?
If you feel like that's a true number,
Yes,
Yeah,
the
we do.
575?
yes.
We do.
No, but I don't understand what you're saying you're going to revisit.
No, pass the budget without the COLA, and then revisit the COLA when we know more about this other big expense here, this election expense. Remove the COLA, put the elections in, adopt the budget, and then between now and January, more about this election stuff and how much it's truly going to
The
cost.
COLA would not become effective until January 1st anyway, right?
Right. What I'm saying is that we can always, if this went away, then we can revisit this.
What you're saying is that the COLA doesn't become effective January 1st anyway,
Correct. We can just delay it.
and we could revisit it at that time and see what,
If we can do that, I'm fine with that.
all right.
I think so. Because we know we need to put something in here for this, but let's say that the legislature blows it off for another 2 years, or just to be ridiculous. Let's say that we've got a budget now that provides for elections, and if something changes and none of this happens, well, then we still have that money. What we can do is implement the COLA if y'all want, and then give the difference back to the entities.
And just,
I'm okay with it.
just on the sidebar, board, Melissa and I were talking about the chairman being able to vote, and she's going to research it, or Belinda, and we'll be able to get a definitive answer on that. Melissa, correct?
Right, so we haven't seen anything in the statutes that says the chairman can't vote.
I don't understand why you can't.
Right, and I don't either. I think that's maybe just advice that has been provided at some point. So when Jerry mentioned it, right now it caught our attention. But we don't see anywhere that it says that the chairman can't vote. And I gave the example about the county judge is a voting member, and she's for all intents
The
and
mayor,
purposes the
the mayor
chair.
has a vote.
Sure.
And I've been a
Absolutely.
board chair and voted on every
I've
board
never
I've
heard
ever
of
been
that.
I
on.
have felt like that from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So our advice is, at this point, based on what we know, that he is able to vote. We can certainly look into that a little bit more, but, you know, we briefly looked at it, and there's nothing in the statutes
There
and the
was-
tax code that speaks to that. And if it's, you know, not there, then he can vote.
I've just been handed a note that it was a prior chairman who had conflicts of interest.
So maybe that's what it was.
Maybe that's why it was instigated. So, anyway, long story short is I'm gonna go ahead and vote today, and hopefully the errors and omissions will take care of any issue they want.
So when I go ahead and make a motion that we accept column F, is that okay?
Okay.
Column F.
There is a motion by Butch to accept column F. Is that correct, Butch?
That's correct.
With the proviso that we go back and,
With the recommendations that Elias has provided?
yeah.
On the column.
You're going to have to write out what your recommendation was.
For the minutes.
Elias, let me ask
Okay with
you,
that.
Yes.
we're passing 575. No COLA.
77.
So how are you gonna come back in January and implement a COLA if it's not in the budget?
It doesn't have to be January 1, it can be anytime.
No, I know, but how can you implement that if it's not in the
We
budget?
would
We
do
would have to
budget
budget
amendment.
amendment, so we'd have to discuss it at that
Yeah, but the
point.
amendment would have to go to the entities, and we only have a
Do all that.
timeline to do that.
We can
And
do
that's kind of hard to do within that timeline. I think it's 30 days to go
That's
to
only
each
if they
entity.
protest our budget.
I'm
If the
sorry?
board no, that's only if the board had adopted a budget and the entities protested, then there's a process for that.
I think it's the most transparent way to do it, even if it is a little bit.
So we're
of
giving them a
legwork.
0 plus the state mandate is all we're doing.
Less than the state mandate, 460, but
Right. I agree. Caitlin, would you repeat what you just said, please, ma'am?
I think it's more transparent if we do it that way, even if it is a little bit more legwork to go to the entities.
Yes, ma'am. I agree with you. There's a motion on the floor by Butch. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Caitlin seconds that motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll cast a vote. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye. Oh, you voted.
I voted. Opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously,
Including Jerry.
including me. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time on this, Elias.
Oh, sure.
And we will be kept updated on the item number 2 specifically come November, or see if it's even on the ballot, or is it on the ballot
It's on-
already?
it's on the
It's on the ballot.
Okay, all right. All right, next item on the agenda
Oh,
is
It's me again.
investment report, Elias.
Okay, investment report, in light of all the numbers we've been talking about. All right, so that's on tab 9, and the investments are fine. Our yield that we achieved during the quarter, because now we're in a rising rate environment, we achieved 4.5% versus a benchmark of 5%. So we're going to lag that, because as the market goes up, our portfolio doesn't turn over as fast. What's interesting, the rest of it is just the usual stuff. What's interesting is what's on page 13. I wanted to draw your attention. Normally, we give you these notes, but we don't really focus on them in the board meeting. They're just there. But I thought it was interesting to bring these out. So the Fed target rate as of July 26 is 5.25% to 5.5%. And CPI, which is what they've been directly trying to counter, that's the inflation, it increased between May and June by 0.2%. And then not on here, but I just got the update. Between June and July, it was 0.3%. So that's a month-over-month increase in inflation for the month. And then year over year, June, compared to what prices were in June of last year, it was 3%, very similar to the July numbers. When you go July of 2022 versus July of 2023, year over year for the whole 12 months, it was 3% in both months. So whatever the Feds are doing, it seems to be working. Okay, so inflation has curtailed. I don't know if they're going to raise it one more time. The economists have been surveyed. I think 40% think they're going to raise it, or 20% think they're going to raise it, 60% think they're not going to raise it. We won't know until their next meeting. But our strategy here doesn't change anything, except that a while back when the rates were going up in the market, we started pulling more money out of the bank where they were paying their own interest rates and putting it in tax pool. We're continuing to do that. We're minimizing what's in the bank and maximizing what's in tax pool. So that way we can take advantage of some of these rising rates. And I think that's it for the investment report. Nothing really juicy other than inflation news.
Are those the only 2 locations that we can invest? We can't go out and buy T-bills ourselves?
We could.
We could buy
We could,
T-bills ourselves?
But we're kind of small, so we don't bother with that. Plus, it's all incorporated in tax pool anyway. That's part of their portfolio.
Because I've heard T-bill yields of 5.7, 5.8.
Here's what tax pool is made of. 41% is repurchase agreements, which could be government securities all over the place. Federal agencies, 41%, treasuries, 10.3%, and money market funds, 6.7%. So it's pretty much in federal securities anyway, and a lot of municipals. The problem is, and this comes from the bank, when we do the collateral, governments in Texas can get collateralized over the FDIC limit, which means they pledge certain of their assets to us in case the bank goes belly up. We can get those and sell them on the market. They don't do federal anymore. Our bank does not do them. And I asked why, and I think the answer I got about 1.5 years ago was, have you seen the debt?
And they were just downgraded, so.
Well, by one rating agency, Fitch, I think, did that. But, you know, there's a lack of confidence, but it's not widespread. It's just a significant amount of lack of confidence in the federal level's ability to pay back its debt. So that's another reason that we don't really want to do a portfolio. We're doing individual securities. We want to mix it up and diversify, and the pool provides that.
Anything else, Lars? All right. Now we'll go to item number 10, the discussion of the litigation fund, accounting status, and consider approval of changes to the litigation fund protocols.
It's me again. That's on tab 10.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the history on this was, this really is a subset of the overall procurement process here anyway, you know. Anyway, the reason that these were born is because we, at the time, back in 2019, we had one third party, an outside attorney that was in the mix on the litigation fund spending. So to put everybody on the same page, came up with this one-page memo thing, because I believe the concern raised by a couple of the current members that are still here, that were here at the time and now, was we don't know where we are on things. We see an invoice, we see another invoice, we see another one, and he's giving some, we need everybody on the same page. So we came up with this. And the board at the time had to take action on it so that way we could bring in that third party, the outside party that was involved in this, to make them a part of this, because they don't follow our procurement, they were just doing their own thing. So let me kind of walk you through. This is the last times with markings to show what I'm editing, because that outside attorney is no longer here. All right, so basically it all starts with number 1. And then we'll get into caps in a second, because I think that's where all this started. Number 1, everything starts off this way. What's the need and how much? Once we have number 1 answered, you know, do we have a need for something? And what do you think it's going to cost? And can we go bid it, or is there a supplier for it? So it all starts with number 1, anticipated scope of work, estimated cost. Then it can go to either 2, 3, or 4. 2 is if we determine that there's a need for something, say a consultant, or to buy something, and it's going to be $50,000 or more, then you guys have to pre-approve that before we can sign anything, do a purchase order, sign a contract. Can't do anything without your approval, because $50,000 is the threshold between the chief and you. If it's under $50,000, then it's just the chief. Chief and staff take care of it. And then there's 4, which is a catch-all for things that didn't follow the process above, because we had a lot of that at the time. You know, a certain amount of it, not huge amounts, but we had some of it. So we put a catch-all that anything that didn't follow the process above has to be determined on a case-by-case basis. And then number 5 is an accounting that comes to you at least quarterly. You may recognize that. It's on the very next page. On the litigation fund, because that's what this is zoned in on, you get that feedback. In the broader scope, this is already being done with all of our procurements, everything that's on here. And then the feedback you get, this is detailed to the litigation fund, but then you also get, on the broader scope, because it's identical, for everything else that we do here, you get financial statements once a quarter that show you how everything, including litigation fund, where we are on things per budget. So there used to be, I don't know if y'all can see it, it used to, when we would put this in front of you once a quarter, over here you would see these little tick marks. Those were the things that you'd never seen before. And you'd have to approve them after the fact. Or we were holding up payment until you approve them. Notice there are no tick marks. All this is stopped with the, it's all just being done in-house, and it's being coordinated pretty well. So there's no surprise on here. Everything on here you've already approved before we even cut the check or even ask for the service. Most of the time, anyway. So, but that's just to familiarize you with it. You don't need to do anything with this because I do a lot of this for you. Now, as far as caps go, I think the discussion last board meeting was when we approve something, can we put a limit on it? Yes, you can. You've always had that ability. We even do it with a lot of our stuff when we bring it to you, not to exceed. You can also approve anything here that we bring to you and say, we're approving this not to exceed a certain dollar amount. Okay? So you've always had that ability.
But we've already done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
So we don't have to redo it.
No. I mean, if you want to adopt these, that's fine, but we already do all this.
Okay, so this is not, the protocol hasn't have to be approved by the board.
No, we did it last time because we had an outside party that was in the mix on this, so we adopted it that way. Everybody's, it just gave a heightened focus to this is the process we need to follow. Okay? But you don't need to adopt this. If you want, that's fine, but we already adhere to it.
Any questions?
We would recommend adopting it because there have been some changes from the 2019 original protocol to this one, and it's probably just cleaner to adopt it. since
Okay,
it's from
I mean,
the
it's
board
fine,
anyway.
we can do it. The only reason that we did do it in the first place was because we had that outside party, and we're having a hard time with that.
Motion to
But-
approve by as amended?
Okay.
Motion made by Mr. Chapa. Is there a second on that, please?
Second.
L.A. Elizondo seconds it. Any discussion?
Who's the second?
All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Chapa, LA.
Let the record show it passes unanimously. Thank you, Elias.
Mhm.
Now we're going to go on to item 11, discussion or action on amended services agreement with Downstream Advisors Incorporated. Elias?
I'm going to let Melissa talk with you about that. She's more familiar with it.
Okay. Melissa?
Okay, so this is just an updated service agreement with Downstream Advisors, which is Stephen Graybill. The last agreement that we had was signed by Robin Brenna, and because he's no longer with the district, we just wanted to clean that up and get the chairman to sign off on the agreement. But it's essentially the same as the prior agreement, so we're just cleaning that up. So we're asking that the board approve the updated services agreement and then give the chairman the authority to sign that.
Okay. It's just a cleanup process then.
Yes.
All right. Can I have a motion?
Real quick, though. Don't we have an agreement with another company that is doing the refineries that we have a large contract with?
The previous,
Oh,
we
T.Y.
had
Pickett.
T.Y. Pickett, right.
T.Y.
Okay.
But they
Have-
didn't do the appraisals this last year for the refineries.
But we have contracted with them to do that. Have we discussed with them any type of discount, any type, I mean, why are we paying two people?
What we did for next year, it was supposed to have gotten an increase on the contract,
Mhm.
50,000.
Right.
We're not gonna do that.
So they've agreed to not
Yes.
take the 50,000.
Right.
So
Next year, we anticipate it'll be back to normal again.
what is the scope of their work now? I mean, was this 50, 60, 75% looking at these refineries? Is, it, are they doing other work for us?
Letty?
Yes, they do a lot of other work.
They do a lot
They
of
do
other?
minerals, the
Talk into the
pipelines.
microphone, Letty, please.
So T.Y. Pickett also does minerals, pipelines, other refineries, other fractionator. I mean, they do a lot of other stuff besides just the three refineries.
Do we feel like the 50,000 is kind of equal to what they're not going to be doing for these two very large refineries?
Well, in the future, it could change though. I mean,
How long is this contract?
Next year, I think they're 24 and 25, or just 24. I'm not sure whether they're going into the year 25, but I do know next year is still on contract.
And so
Okay.
they've just verbally agreed to not increasing the contract.
Yes,
I remember that we had agreed to an increase.
right.
So they're saying now that since they're not doing these two,
Yeah, we had a conversation because I think the board had brought that up the last board meeting.
right,
And we had that conversation, they agreed on that increase not to come around.
So is that an amendment to their contract?
Well, we just got the approval to do that recently.
so
We
Melissa,
haven't-
you're going to amend their
Yes.
contract?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we discussed that. We do have to amend it formally because the contract actually has the fixed dollar amount in it.
So we'll see an adjustment in the budget for what we had
Yeah.
budgeted for their
Mhm.
contract.
Yep, and that's fresh because Ronnie and Letty just spoke with them yesterday, so it's not in anything that you were given in your packet, but we can also do that.
And so we don't know if they end in, is 24 their last year or is
On the
25
current
their
contract,
last
I
year?
believe so. Let me see. Yes, 2024.
Okay,
It's
so we can
calendar years.
renegotiate
Mhm.
in 24, okay.
24, 25.
What
Thank
we
you.
were going, what we were going to do, and we'd like your permission to do, is just leave that in the budget, just in case something goes awry with it.
Well, I'm just thinking is that if we're going to be moving monies around, that would be first place to start, that's 50,000.
And it would
Right.
be nice for them to delineate how much of their services apply to those entities that they're no longer appraising. So if they could break out an actual dollar amount.
Caitlin, we're not sure
Okay.
going forward who's going to be doing the appraisals.
Okay.
And so, but we'll look at the contract.
Okay.
So back to the original motion.
Sorry.
Is there a motion to accept the cleanup process on item number 11? LA makes a motion to approve it. Second, please.
Second,
Leo seconds that.
that was me.
Okay, oh, Butch seconds that? Okay, I'm sorry. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 12, the discussion or action of Downstream Advisors, Inc., Scope 5.
So scope 5 goes to this updated services agreement. All the prior scopes were attached to the agreement that Rob and Brenna signed. So this is just a general overly broad scope. In the event that we need to pay any invoices out of a scope, this is our live scope now. So we also put a limit of 100,000 in there because we know that the board is wanting to start seeing some limits. And so if we need to go beyond the 100,000, we would come back to the board to ask for approval on that. So we're asking for the board to approve scope 5.
And this is all built into the litigation fees? Their consulting?
The litigation fund, yes.
So,
Yes, sir.
and so where's the, I know I'm going back to the other company, where is that heading? Is that under litigation or is that under just consulting services?
The TY Pickett?
Yes.
Oh, the TY Pickett?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we have an answer for that yet.
Elias, do you know?
I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm
Where is
typing some-
TY Pickett in our budget? What are they called? Consulting?
They're under the, here.
Professional contract.
So they're under professional and then we've got,
But do they come out of the litigation fund?
No,
Okay.
no. That's coming out of another line item.
So this item,
Maybe
any
it's just a-
billing would come out of the litigation fund.
maybe it's just an accounting issue with me. They do the same thing, but they're in two different places. That's kind of,
If I can,
Yes.
okay, on scope 5,
uh-huh.
the refinery part is coming out of the litigation fund. The other property owner stuff, New Star, that's coming out of our line item. Professional services, appraisal
Okay,
services.
so we're splitting it then. I mean,
sorry?
So,
One's for appraisal and one's for litigation. There's
Right.
two different ones.
Same guy is doing it, so it's rolled into the one agreement,
but it's
but
downstream.
downstream is doing
So
both.
downstream, so you're doing part of it in the litigation and then
Mhm.
part of it's under professional services.
Mhm.
So it's not all.
Well,
under-
appraisal services.
Okay.
Now, if that happens to go litigation, it's nice that it's in there, and then the litigation fund might, well, I don't think it would pick up New Star, because that fund's not really for that taxpayer, or that size taxpayer.
Okay.
But yeah, it would come out of our consulting.
And really, your litigation fund is strictly for your top 10 taxpayers, which is basically your refineries, your top 3, top 10. And that's basically where all that money has been spent on. It's not your normal taxpayer that they spend money on, or we spend money on. Anything that's going to be litigated on the high end, that's for your litigation fund. That's basically what it's for.
Okay.
Can I go ahead and get a motion to accept item number 12?
So move.
Amanda makes a motion to approve it. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Leo seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously. Now we're going to go ahead and go into executive session, item number 13. Public notice is given that the Board of Directors may elect to go into executive session anytime during the meeting to discuss matters listed anywhere on the agenda, when authorized by the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. Should the Board of Directors elect to go into executive session, the section or sections of the Open Meetings Act authorizing the executive session will be publicly announced by the presiding officer. Upon completion of executive session, the Board of Directors may take such action as appropriate in open session. Item number A, consult with legal counsel regarding Flint Hills / Valero litigation and related matters, 551.071. Item number B, consult with legal counsel on statutory duties of the Nueces County Appraisal District Board of Directors, 551.071. We'll now let the record show it's 10:07. And we will now go into closed session. Let the record show it's 10:35 and the meeting is back in session. There was no action taken in our executive session. Next item on the agenda is item number 15, Chief Appraiser's Report. Ronnie?
I'll make it short. Certification of the appraisal roll was done on July 25th by the Appraisal Review Board. We got that done shortly right after that. We sent out all the numbers to all the jurisdictions or entities. On the second, the Ad valorem Legal Seminar Conference that's coming up in San Antonio, August 30th through September 1st. We're going to send our legal staff to go there, plus the coordinators in our staff. So it'll be a total of about maybe, 5, 6 people going there shortly. And then we're going to the IAAO Annual International Conference in Salt Lake City in Utah, the 27th through the 30th of August. Then we come back on the 8th of September. We'll have a legislative update at La Mantilla's Anheuser-Busch warehouse. And we'll be meeting there. I'm sure they're gonna serve good refreshments there, Bud Light, But anyway, that's basically it. And then just to say that, again, staff has really come up and done what they need to have done this year. We saw close to 40,000, Letty? We're at 39,000 right now.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing more people this month through the ARB. Also, we spent a lot more comp time than we've had in years past. And that little flyer that we gave you, it'll tell you what we've done and how we did it. It also breaks down too as to how many protests came from the different categories of property, residential, commercial, etc., and going from there. And like I said, the staff has done a real good job of doing what they've done, even though we were short-staffed. And I can't say enough about that. But anyway, we will continue to do what we have to do to make sure that we do a good job and also be transparent as we can, like we normally do. So other than that, I have any questions?
The legislative update.
Yes, that's September 8th.
Okay.
At what time is it at?
It's gonna be about, I think, 10 o'clock. But on the next board meeting, I was telling Jerry earlier, we'll have more information as to how the elected ones are gonna come onto the board, and then what also happens or can happen to the existing board. If everything is done in May of next year, the elections, then those people that are elected take over in July of that same year. And then like I'm saying, so the other thing too is because of the cost factor, they might be looking into just going into November. And if that's gonna be the case, it's possible that those people that are elected will take over in January of 25. Okay? But that's basically it.
Okay. Item number 16, board for suggested items for next regular meeting. Does anyone have anything in particular they want to put on the agenda? Besides, Neil does some great pan dulce. It doesn't matter.
It's fun.
Whatever it is.
Anything else? Do we have anything for any items? Nothing? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lyle Elizondo makes a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's no second, so we can't. Leo seconds it. Any discussion?
Oh, can we, I wasn't here at the last meeting, but can we get some feedback on how Leo ran a meeting versus how Jerry ran a meeting?
That's why he's back.
All right.
He wasn't due back, that's why
It's
he's
not
back.
on the discussion item. All in favor, vote aye.
That lunch that he served was delicious. Leo had
He
a
can do
great.
it again. Yeah.